Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to Allison Christmas Project Car TV. I'm working on Gramp Stang and I'm working on the brakes. And what I've got here is the Wilwood master cylinder, because the master cylinder that was originally on the car when I got it was leaking and pretty much leaking from everywhere. We also didn't have any rear brakes, which I've come to find we have rear axle seals leaking that had contaminated the rear pads. We also ended up having a brake line leak at the T in the back of the car. So we essentially had no rear brakes. Front brakes were doing all the work, and they weren't very good. They were just enough, you know. The master cylinder was leaking, so we got a new Wilwood master cylinder. We've begun setting it up. This particular one has a deep pin location, so they send you a aluminum plug that goes down in there and you just cut it to your length. Well, as part of that, you've got to figure out how long that is, and so the pin out of most aftermarket boosters is adjustable, and that it just unscrews, the end of it unscrews out of the rod there so that you can adjust it. Well, there's nowhere near enough adjustment for the depth of the new master cylinder, so we've got that plug fit in there and cut off. Now, I did all this with just some basic math. You measure how far this pin is sticking out, how far the new master cylinder, what the depth is there, and you do all that with a set of calipers, just using the end here that protrudes out. Once you start getting close, a really easy tool to use is this thing. And this one is made by BB Tool. And they're not sponsoring or anything, but I do like it. They sell it saying it's for a Corvette, but it works on pretty much any aftermarket setup. Probably most of the stock setups, but you probably wouldn't really need it. So what you're going to do is you want to measure with that pin in place. You want to measure how deep your recess is, how much rod would need to be in there to begin touching and pushing in on the master cylinder. So you loosen that nut, push in on here on the rod, and then slowly let the frame, the white part, get down onto the place where it's going to settle against the master cylinder, so the mounting flange. And once you've got all that nice and tight, just snug up the nut so that the depth from there, if you drew a straight line across there like that, okay, minus the thickness of our little steel here, that distance is how far the rod needs to push in to touch our master cylinder control, so that as soon as we start pushing on the pedal, we're actually working the master cylinder. Now if the rod, when you measure this side, if it's too far, then your master cylinder is already open part way before you have ever touched the brakes. So meaning you're either dragging the brakes all the time and prematurely wearing them out, so now you put this down here. I got that pretty well blown up, but you can see there's a little gap there, which means the pedal has to move the rod that far before the master cylinder starts doing any work. So what we need to do is just adjust the threaded part of this rod out towards the master cylinder until it just touches the end of this rod. And then we know that when the master cylinder is fully installed and fully seated, it is pushed tight up against our rod without actually compressing it at all. So it's ready to do as much work as possible. Then we can reinstall the master cylinder. It's a great tool if you're trying to adjust your brakes or trying to find, start to diagnose why you have braking issues. It's a great place to start because it's hidden and you never really go in there looking. You can do it all with math, with a pair of calipers, and taking your time, you'll get it right eventually. Using something like this makes it super easy, and once you've done the majority of the work, getting everything really close, so that your adjuster screw can fill the void, then you're right there where you need to be, and a tool like that will get you there. So here we are again. I thought I'd try one more shot at demonstrating these tools and how to measure all this stuff. So this is a different master cylinder and booster, but basically we want to measure the depth of that. We can use this tool, and I've already set it, but you run that down in there, loosen this up, push the rod all the way in, and then get the white part of the frame here flat. Tighten the nut there. So from there to there, whatever that distance is, that's the depth of that master cylinder plunger. And then we flip this around to the brake booster side, and we're measuring, what we're looking for is we don't want more than 0.020 of a gap there. And I want to measure this one out with some feeler gauges. It's still loose on, what is that, 51. So it's way bigger than we need. And that's as delivered, which is no big deal. That's what the adjustment's for. We can, on this one, we loosen this set screw, screw that out, and then tighten that set screw, and the thing locks down. And like I said, we don't want to exceed 0.020, so we've got to close up about something close to 30 thousandths in there, to where that feeler gauge just loosely touches both sides. You can run it all the way snug. It's just what you're going to find is if you touch the pedal, you're going to immediately start getting brakes. So having just this little bit of a gap, of 0.020 or a little less, gives you just a little bit of pedal movement before you're actually applying brakes. So that's not going to be a problem. We're just going to get 2 wrenches here, loosen this up, adjust it out, and then I'll come back with you. Okay, on this one you can see as soon as I broke that loose, that let me spin it. Don't be shocked if you find these things are metric rather than standard thread, even if you're working on an old car. It would be shocking if they were standard thread. Usually you'll find these are fine thread. This one actually looks to be maybe a coarser metric thread. Once you get a place you like, hold the main one in place, and then you tighten up the jam nut. And that's all there is to it. And you just double check your measurement. Yeah, so 15 thousandths fits in it, so I'm in good shape there. It's less than the 20, not so tight that it's going to not have any pedal play at all before it touches. And so when this gets mounted there, the plunger will start working almost immediately. So anyway, that's it. I just thought since I had one off the car, I could show you. And you guys have a great day. Okay, thanks for watching Allison Customs. We'll see you again soon.